Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Wall Street Jesus here. Saturday sweep series open to everybody today. Once a month, we open up the Saturday sweep series to everybody out there. The other 3 weeks of the month, we have it for members only, both Steam Room and private Twitter feed members. And basically, anybody who's new, and we got quite a few new people on here, so I apologize to some of you guys who have been around here a while. Just gets repetitive, but I'll make it quick because they get bombarded with the questions anyway, So, but basically, what we try to accomplish each and every week we do this webinar, we focus on three things: the three S's: sweepers, sentiment, and strategy. We go over what we saw the prior week. We try to put some pieces to the puzzle together, come up with a game plan and a strategy and what to look for next week. And that's what we look to do each and every Saturday. We'll go over some names. We got a lot of names, a lot of big winners out there. We'll go over some of the remaining setups and my feelings on it. We'll get your impressions on it as well. All right, so we got quite a few things to cover. A lot of interesting stuff going on out there, especially in tech, some of the underbelly of tech, which a lot of us like to trade. So we'll dive into that, okay? Anybody who's new and is confused by some of the terminology, some of the strategy technique and any of that, you could go to wallstreetjesus.com. Okay, it's pretty simple. WALLST Jesus.com. You can also get the link off my Twitter if you forget it for some reason. You go to strategy section, and even if you guys are new members, okay, free trial members, or fairly new to the Steam Room and stuff like that, you can go here, and they're quick, short, easy to read blogs. Okay, very easy to read. They don't take much time, and from the basics, sweepers, why I feel they're important, why I pay attention to them so closely, and some trading strategy. Throughout my experience, how I've seen people trade successfully off this intel and information. Okay, some trade examples out there, all sorts of neat stuff, and you'll get a lot of your questions answered there for the most part, especially those basic questions. All right. Very quickly, I want to bang this out at the beginning here, so you guys are aware of what we got going on. This is fairly new. I think it's a couple months. We got a 3-day trial to the premium package, basically the Steam Room, everything that we offer in there. No credit card required. Okay, we did that, so no obligation, no pain in the neck to put in your credit card and worry about canceling. You get 3 days, not tied to anything. You get an idea of what we're looking at. You're not going to get a great feel over 3 days, but you get at least an idea of what we're trying to do. And if you decide to sign up after that, 50% off the first month of the $225, and that includes everything, okay, including private Twitter, which I get asked a lot. All right, the private Twitter feed, you guys see me post from there. Basically, it's all the real-time alerts in real time, some sentiment, open interest stuff, pre and post market, okay? So that's included in the premium package. Also, if you're on the road a lot, or you're not in front of your screen a lot, and the trading room is not for you, whatever the case may be, or even if you want to test this out longer than the 3 days, we offer now private Twitter by itself. Okay, you get access to the whole private Twitter feed. That's $59.99 a month. You go to the product page up here, and you'll see that private Twitter feed label there. You click on. Okay. Also, one more thing we got. Lucci's doing that master course. All right. Basically, this is the tape reading. You learn a decent amount about his writing strategy. I get a lot of questions on that. I am not the person to talk to regarding writing premium off wise guy activity. Okay. There's a lot of people who find success doing it. I'm not one who does it. All right. Lucci dives into the tape reading aspect, the writing aspect, And I mean, basically this, and I know I'm obviously it's going to sound like I'm trying to upsell, but if you're interested in this type of strategy, if you're interested in tape reading, if that, if you find that fascinating, it's worth your while. It's worth your while because you get a better idea of how the option market works, how the market makers work. Okay. So, in my opinion, if you're new to the options trading world and you're going to do anything besides buy calls or buy puts, anything else you're going to do, and it involves selling at all, I think it's a good idea if you take this course. And it's almost like a shortcut to what you're probably going to learn the hard way on your own over time. Okay. If you're keeping it simple, all you do is trade equity or buy calls, buy puts. Yeah, of course you probably don't need it. Then you would have to be interested in the tape reading aspect. But if you're looking to dive a little deeper into the option market and learn about price and how the market makers price things premium wise and so forth, this is a pretty in-depth course. Lucci's trading right in front of you and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool. All right. You could get that link again off the Wall Street Jesus site. You have any questions, just hit Lucci up on Twitter. Him or Charlie will get back right back to you. They got a discount code out there as well. So you may want to hit them up on that. Do I have it here? Probably should have it here. Might be on the page. If not, just contact us and we'll shoot it out to you. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the market. What the heck am I doing? Here we go. And what we've been seeing. Okay. So basically, it's been all about tech. All right, let's be honest. It's been all about tech. There's been other pockets out there, some laggards starting to participate just last week. I think that's what made last week even better than prior weeks, is we had other stuff participate. But tech has really been the juice. All right. You got some enormous winners, some high growth names that have been catching sweeper activity that just haven't stopped. Okay. That's the good part. The bad part is, whether you want to believe it or not, anything we see from this point now is, I'm trying to put the right words on this to live, late inning type stuff, to use a baseball reference. Okay, whether you want to believe it or not. In other words, any action we see into any of the the software names, the cloud names, Chinese names, this is the late batch of action coming in now. Okay, and you guys know me, the best risk reward, the biggest bang for your buck, where it's really worth your while, is always off that initial batch of activity. Okay, and it doesn't have to be the first couple names that catch action or catch momentum, but usually it's the first couple weeks that really you see some of the biggest winners come out of. All right, and this is kind of what we were talking about when we saw the activity. We were seeing sweeper activity and some Chinese stuff, even when the market was on shaky ground. Okay, and it kind of had us scratching our head that you have this tariff stuff going on. There's not much buying out there, period, right, as a whole in the overall markets. But some of the better looking actions coming into China related issues. And again, if you remember me telling you, the best action, the best names usually come when you really don't have much of an interest in buying it. It's probably the last spot or the last period of time you would look to buy, is where some of the best sweeper activity comes in. All right. And, we were seeing names like, I remember one of the first names, Bison, and you can see here, this was in this consolidation here, right after the market took that hit, that February panic attack. And, there was like 3-4 different October sweepers that were huge, ridiculous sweeps. Okay. Bison never saw that type of activity. And, it comes into this consolidation. The stock just gapped up higher. And, I couldn't get a grasp on why we were seeing, such quality action come into a name like this up here and nothing else catch any buying. We were seeing other Chinese related names. You guys know the list. I mean, there's a ton of them out there that have caught action. And then one of the first momentum, high growth, newer, fresh names that we never heard about was this IQ. Okay. And then when we saw that sweeper activity there, and it really started to gather steam, we were talking in the room how usually, doesn't happen all the time, but usually the first names that see that type of activity when you come out of correction end up being the biggest winners. Then everyone starts looking, they want the next IQ, right? And that's when things spill over into the other Chinese names or IPO names. They're looking for the next potential IQ. But the IQ becomes a leader, becomes a leader. And there's been incredible action there, but I'm making the point here now, anything we see that may look like the next potential IQ, okay, is, like I said, it's late stage stuff now. So in simple English, what that means is there's a higher probability of failure there. Okay. Now, I think in general, in tech, that's most likely the case in everything. You look at AMD, give me a break, right? This thing's been up every single day. And, no matter how strong it looks, no matter how much activity we still see around AMD, the risk reward up here is not favorable, obviously, based both off price action and off sweeper activity. I mean, the AMD has been littered with sweepers this whole trip. All right, so you got to understand that right now as we head into next week, okay? And that's why if you guys were on the during the week webinar with Ranchero on Thursday, the first thing I wanted to touch on was you better be prepared if you have money in these type of things, these hot names, these hot groups right now, you better be prepared for the music stopping. Okay, if a pullback comes into these names and sectors and you're taking back, you're shocked by it, you're on the wrong path in this game. Okay, we spoke about this. I got deja vu kind of in January, right? Okay, in January, when things got out of control, and that was basically the whole market getting out of control, not just a hot batch of tech sectors. The whole market went nuts. Up here, the same thing. I remember saying, and we were talking about the same exact thing, and the market continued higher, okay? And that's fine. That's fine, okay? Because you still want to participate. We go over this a lot, You still want to be involved, even if it's in a small way, because it can go on for another week or two. Who knows? Months. Who knows? Okay? But you cannot be surprised or shocked when these things finally do reverse. Okay? And the likelihood is they're going to be up, people are going to be euphoric, and you get that reversal. Whoop! Right? Green, everybody chasing. She flushes red, and she never looks back. And at that point, it happens so quick that you're probably going to get stuck. All right? They give a couple of head fakes before that. We're seeing that now. They go red, and then they bring them back green again, right? We saw that last week. A couple of names went red. Like, uh-oh, here's the reversal. And then they brought it back green again. They're not going to make it easy. Trust me. Okay, but you have to be prepared in these hot things right now, in these hot groups, for that event. Okay, and for me, from my experience, okay, and you guys have heard me tell you this numerous times, you'll hear each and every trader you talk to will give you a different piece of advice. Buy protection, roll out, buy Armageddon puts, buy this, buy that. it all depends on you and how long you are, how uncomfortable you are. So there's no exact blanket answer that you can apply to everybody out there. Okay. For me, the way I look at it, all right, what I want to do is I want to take it down a couple notches, several notches. Okay. So I always gave you the example, guys. It's almost like a funnel. Picture a funnel, right? The funnel, the top is the widest. Okay. And as you go, longer and longer through the tunnel, a funnel, I should say, a funnel, you get, thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner as that funnel extends. Okay. And that's the way I look at it. So at the initial stages of a rally and activity, that wider part of the funnel, that's where I want to be most aggressive. And then as things stretch, I obviously want to have less risk exposure and less risk exposure as things continue to extend until the end game. All right. So, I give you an example. Let's say you were playing, I don't know, the Campbell Soups, the JD, the Roku, the IQs, and you were, juggling 5-6 positions at a time. You had some decent size on. Okay. Now you may want to swing, 1 or 2 positions with a lot less size. Okay. So this way, again, you're still participating, right? If there's more upside, you're going to make money if these things participate. But if you get caught, yeah, you give back a little bit of profit. But like Ronchero and I were pointing out on that prior webinar, you're not getting lumped up. You're not getting lumped up, and you have the ammo to fire when we get back down there and things are ready again, because that's where the best risk reward is at. Same thing in January, okay? If you started trimming here, and honestly, this is where we started talking about things getting crazy here in January in the overall markets. So you had this whole second half of this leg make my comments look like I was a complete idiot. All right. But for me, I looked at it as you had that much more time to get prepared for that. Because when this came, you had no time. All right. And if you were caught all in or too long, you had no shot at taking advantage out of any of the opportunities down here. And now look as we look back, okay? Look as we look back. Every spot where things lined up, as we like to say, the sweet spot, right? Where sentiment and some aggressive sweeper activity comes in. Look at the spots we were talking about throughout this correction. Look at the entries there. You know what I mean? And we're just looking at the overall market, not some of the names that were hit at the time. So that's where you want to be able to take advantage. It doesn't have to be this big, okay? It may, again, because this is what's going on now is more sector related than overall market related, in my opinion. Not everything has gone nuts. It's just eventually these names get tired. They can't go up forever. And let's look at a couple examples. Remember, what was that batch? Intel and Microsoft. What were a couple of the other ones? I think it was back here, if you can make it out. You see back here? Okay. This is where we had a long correction type base in these names. This is Intel, by the way. And then this almost looks like the AMD move here, okay, where things just went bananas. Right? And you can see it continues to go higher, continues to go higher. Then eventually, you almost don't even realize it until it's too late. You get caught in something like this. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a February debacle like we just saw in the overall markets. They just get tired and they need to consolidate. And it gets tougher to make money in these names. All right, so that's what's likely to happen at some point in some of these overextended names. They just need to breathe. Now, the good thing is what a couple of you guys were mentioning before the webinar started. There's a lot of groups out there that have been totally ignored. Totally ignored. A lot of stuff out there not participating. Now, some of the money rolled into that stuff recently. You know, we looked at those staple names, the Campbell Soup, right? Just devastated. No life. Nothing but sellers there. And then we see some flow really build up there. And then, you know, without even realizing, like, look at the move in Campbell's. You know, it was just breaking new lows, looking at its worst. And then you get this ramp here. Okay, so the good thing is that when these things need to rest, there should be spots in this overall market where money can find a home, and we can look for opportunities there. But you're not going to be able to look for opportunities if you're caught long in some of these hot names and you're stuck in them. Okay, and the reason I say this, some of you more experienced people out there, traders out there, probably are saying, well, obviously we know this, but I see it all too often. Just late last week, okay, I don't even know who it was, but it was somebody in the room, okay, made a comment that they bought AMD up here, this red reversal day up here, and it reversed on them intraday, and they took a hit. And I see them make a comment like, with all that flow, this stock reversed. Seriously? Seriously? You know, and maybe for me it's common sense because, you know, I've been trading a long time. But what do you think can happen up here if you're buying up here? What do you think can happen up here? You think the stock is just going to go up every single day? Is that forever? So that's why I feel like I need to harp on this, you know, because you're going to see flow and activity in these names up until the last minute where the music stops. I don't think a lot of you realize that. The activity just don't shut down. There's not somebody who comes out and buys some puts and says, yo, guys, AMD rally, over, get out. That doesn't happen. These guys, what they like to do, they start buying here, right? And we go over this all the time. They roll up, they roll out and press. Roll up, roll out and press. Roll up, roll out and press. So even though it looks like new, fresh activity, to some of you guys looking at the volume and the call activity out there, it's not. It's not new buying. Smart money doesn't buy, load up here. We see where the smart money shows up for the first time. You know, they show up at the worst times where you have zero interest in owning this thing. That's where they show up. So you guys got to understand that even though you're seeing activity, and you know, it's amazing. I get so many questions on it, like so many questions on it. Oh, did you see that Baba sweeper? Yeah. Baidu. Now, all of a sudden, Baidu is the hot commodity. I had to pull teeth to get people to even put Baidu on a watch list off an August missile down here. Now, everybody wants to own Baidu up here. Everybody. Everybody and their mother. You know what? Just like up here. Some of you remember we were talking about that. Just like up here. Look how quick that unraveled. Whoop. So it's the way we're wired. You understand? Trust me, been there. I overdid it trying to train myself not to chase green. I overdid it, I'm telling you, throughout my career. That's how religiously I worked on not chasing green throughout my whole career. I looked at it like it was Satan. You know, to the point where, like I said, I overdid it, and now I get a little too clever. You know, stock's up a little bit, and I don't want to pull the trigger. Because I know I've seen a lot of retail and a lot of traders around me and brokers around me. You know, we're just wired to get excited and to want to buy when things are green. And when things look not so hot, we have no interest. We have no interest. Okay, and listen, I get this. Well, I'm a momentum day trader, so I'm not talking about that. If you're day trading, realistically, you can day trade anything as long as you put a stop, right? As long as you're not marrying something on an intraday level and riding it down throughout the whole day into a reversal, you can day trade anything. You can day trade anything. I'm talking about starting new positions. And that's how a lot of you guys trade out there, right? You're swing traders. You're looking, most of you on this webinar anyway are playing options. You're looking to swing some calls over the next couple of weeks. So you're looking for decent risk reward setups. And you're not going to get that chasing moves like this. Okay? You'll make some money sometimes chasing. That's, I think, the worst part about it. It'd be amazing if every time you chase, you lost money, because you would do it a couple of times and you say, whoa, I'm never doing this again, right? That would be easy. That would be the best case scenario. You lost money every time you chased. If that happened to you early on in your career, consider yourself blessed. You learned probably the best lesson you could possibly learn by accident. But the problem is you get away with it. This market gives you a taste even when you chase. And then we'll hit you over the head hard the next time. Just like the casino. You go to the blackjack table, you're going to make some money. You're going to think you know what you're doing. You think you're going to have some sort of system. Oh, I got a system. Don't worry. I got a system. Until they take everything, including your underwear. So that's and again, you don't need to be some stock or sentiment aficionado to know when that time is. Okay, when you see a chart like this, common sense, right? When you see a chart like this, common sense. Common sense. All right, so aside from that, what happens now after you get this big move, money pouring into these things and everything exploding, now what happens, like I told you, they look for other names in the group, in the sector, that maybe do the same thing. Okay, and that's what we start seeing. All right, and we've been seeing that, and that's where some great opportunities have been. Now again, we're getting even further into the late innings here, and we're going to see that last batch. There's going to be a batch, FYI, that goes south. When they reverse, chances are they're going to go under with it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Again, you could still participate, just smaller. If you own the IQ and you made a nice chunk on it, take a small portion of that into possibly something in that same group from here. And you can roll the dice. And it's totally fine. You don't need to be completely gun shy, sell everything, go into all out cash. Because what happens is, if you're too early on that move and you just go into total cash, some people could do it. Me, I still need to participate. The good thing is I day trade, so that keeps me participated, and my swings will be, light, if anything, from this point in that stuff. Okay, but you still need to participate. So, and chances are you can make some money, lose some money. It'll even itself out at the least if you do it properly. All right, but we'll go over some of the names we've been seeing some action in. Like, for example, here's another one. We were talking about this, for 2 webinars now, this Dropbox. Right? Down here, look at the difference. Down here, post IPO, dead, really nothing going on. Some sweeper activity gets involved. And what the hell is this about? I don't even know why this happened. This is the crazy stuff that goes on when things get hot. you know? Now, Bob is saying, why do I say late innings? Is just, again, a common sense thing, Bob, here, okay? Let's say DBX, you look at this chart. Is this the first inning? Right here? I mean, just a common sense thing here. Is this the first inning now in Dropbox? Can I buy Dropbox right here? And just like I did off action down here and be in the same shape? You know, I mean, come on. Look at IQ. Can I buy IQ up here? Is IQ in the first inning like it was down here off initial activity? Not even close. Not even close, guys. Not even close. Just again, common sense. There's nothing. I'm not, trying to get too technical here. I'm just talking about off price action and sweeper activity. Dropbox saw some more action Friday. That's not initial activity, right? Obviously, a lot of you guys had the Dropbox, made a nice score on it. So the Friday action was an initial activity. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a stock that was under 30, now trading at what, 40 in 3 days. So that's what I'm trying to say here. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of stuff like this that's been going on. And what you're going to see now is the money start to flow into some of the laggards that haven't done this yet. Okay. And that's what I mean by, Bob, that those names, that happens in the late innings. That doesn't happen in the initial innings. The spillover into some of the laggards happens in the late innings. Some will work out, but there will be a batch that goes under eventually. Yeah, Bob, I'm talking about this group here, not necessarily one stock. I'm talking about this group. Obviously, the financials are in that camp, right? So that's what I'm saying. This is not like January where the whole market was like this. Now it's a bunch of sectors, right? You got China tech, I guess is one of them, cloud, internet. I don't know what label to put on them. There's a bunch of different sectors. All I know is every name I see the word software and IT services catch action, they explode. You had the payment services. Look at FDC. This stock couldn't rattle 30 cents together on the upside over a couple of days. There hasn't been a down day in this stock off action. Do you realize that? There hasn't been a down day off the action in this stock, FDC. So that's what I mean. Can I buy FDC up here? I don't know. Off sweeper number 35, 40, as I could off the first batch that came in right here? That's the point I'm making, Bob. So yeah, it's not the overall market. I'm talking about specific sectors, and we see it now as a whole. You know what I mean? We see it as a whole. The tech names have tremendously outperformed a lot of stuff out there. All right, and we'll go over some of the names that we saw some action in late week. We'll go over, review some of the winners, not to, again, brag. A lot of you guys have caught them. They're great. Fine. You're happy. You go over some of the winners just to get an idea of what they look like when they caught the activity initially from this point now. That's what we're looking at. We're not looking at anything else but that now out of some of the winners out there. Okay. And let's take a peek at some of the overall sentiment. And just to give you an idea, all right, I'll elaborate on them as we go through them here, okay? This is basically all of them, okay? This is all the sentiment I look at, okay? They're different time frames and stuff, but basically they're usually in sync. I got a couple of sectors on here we can look at as well. The squeezometer, a lot of you guys know that's that odometer. That's an intraday indicator. That's extreme short term. Has been pretty dead. I was kidding around that it was broken last week. I think that has a lot to do with, again, the divergences in the market. Financials a disaster. Tech, spots of tech, ridiculous. We've been floating around that neutral mark all week. Pretty dead. Okay, so the squeezometer 48 there, a bit under neutral. Anti-VIX, that's VIX buying on an intraday level. So when people are buying, scrambling for exposure in VIX, that means they're nervous. Okay, this is above neutral, more towards a bearish sign than a bullish sign. Okay, meaning nobody wants any VIX. Okay, but still in the neutral camp, so nothing to worry about there yet. Short-term trader sentiment, which has been the best roadmap of it all throughout the correction, believe it or not, below neutral off Friday's weakness. So meaning that there's some bearishness out there. And the thing is too, you got to understand, this is a measure of the overall market, kind of what like you're talking about, Bob, just before. And again, without the pockets of strength in tech primarily, there's a lot of sour grapes out there. And that's why I think we have such a decent reading here, 37. So anything under 20 would tell us that people are a little too bearish. Okay. But again, that's the overall market. NASDAQ trader sentiment. So pretty much same type of indicator you can see above neutral there. Okay. That's the NASDAQ in general, not just tech. Equity put to call was flashing some warning signs. Late last week, like Wednesday, Thursday-ish, had a nice little bounce for us back to out of the warning territory. I think I have it here. I could show you guys what it looks like. Here. It's the equity put to call. So you can see here, you don't want this thing hanging around down here because that means, everybody's pretty much lined up on the call side. And you could see back here throughout the correction, we were looking at this, remember? The total opposite we were seeing. This thing was hovering around the green zone where people are focused mostly on put buying and protection. Okay, so we had a nice little lift, pretty decent lift off that on Friday. Just a little bit of weakness. I think the Dow was weaker than most. You had the tariff talk and stuff, so that's good. Here's some individual sectors you guys might be interested in. Here's the total put to call, very similar. That's everything, not just equities. All right, this is the DSI, the Daily Sentiment Index, we look at a lot. S&P 500 over 70. My opinion, anything, once you start getting over 80, you got to really take notice. Okay, this is not really anything to worry about just yet. 80, 85, people are getting a little too crazy. You're talking about January again. NASDAQ, very similar for some reason. Crude, look at the bath crude has taken, 36%. So approaching that bullish territory slowly on, again, this is the commodity itself, not the names. We'll go over, I got something for the names we can look at too. All right. Gold, we talked about this, got hit after a little bounce Friday, 9%. So that's been decimated as far as sentiment. Gold's a little tricky though. You know what I mean? We discussed this a lot. Gold, unless you're a gold bug, you really don't, I don't trade gold. Sentiment or not, I don't trade gold. Okay. But if you were looking for some sort of hedge on something and looking to tuck it away, now would be a better time to look at it than when it was too hot a couple months back. All right. The dollar, that actually cooled off a little bit and then heated up again, 86%. So pretty hot on the dollar. Here's some of the things you guys might be interested. Financials, down at 30. Financials, believe it or not, if they closed near the lows off Friday, you probably would have been really close to a bullish signal there on the financials. Okay, so they're close. A couple of you guys have been asking me about that. Energy stops now. They got there. Okay, so the energy stocks are there. Again, this is sentiment. So now you see some flow come into these names, into these groups. You could start, taking a peek there. Staples, which was, again, in buy territory when we started looking at it, has really got hot here. And, the Campbell Soups, the Clorox, the CL, they had nice rallies off the low. Honestly, I didn't expect this being that hot. Some of them have rallied nicely, though. All right, and this is the intermediate term. We really don't need to get into the details of it, but you can see AIM. You guys know that. We looked at it a couple times, pretty much neutral now. Smart money buying neutral. Twitter, tweets, social media, Twitter, they're a bit bullish. The other stuff didn't update yet. This retail put buying is measured weekly. I really pay attention to that. All right, so but some of the key stuff out there basically is neutral-ish, but again, just some pockets of tech that are hot. And that's where it throws a monkey wrench into some of these indicators, okay? But again, say you need common sense at times, just some common sense. Again, as far as buying, it doesn't mean you have to sell these things if you own it. I was getting that question too. Like FDC, I wouldn't buy it up here, but I rolled out to Jan, and I'm going to leave Jan calls alone. You know what I mean? So I'm not looking to sell everything I got now that I have time. I just don't want to start a new position up here in FDC. Steve is saying, does private Twitter feed include all the flow that gets filtered? Yes. All the flow into the room goes to private Twitter in real time. Do you buy the overextended names for day trades? Brant, that's a good question. For me, no. Well, no. I think I understand your question. I just wanted to make sure. What I look at, like, for example, I'll give you an example. If there's, let's say we come, ding, 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 opening bell, and I see all of a sudden sweeper activity steam into a name that's been hot, okay? I'm trading the equity, first off, okay? So it's a lot easier to get in and out, but I might get in the middle of that and try to scalp whatever name that is, even though it's been hot. Why? Because I see those sweepers bum rushing it right out of the gate. Chances are it's going to create some momentum, and that's what I'm looking to take advantage of. So yeah, you can day trade anything if you think you can catch a move out of it. You understand? The problem is when you get up here, a lot of you guys, especially if you're day trading options, which is difficult in itself, need decent moves. Okay? Decent sustained moves higher throughout the course of the day. You're not likely to get that on these overextended names because they get tired. They're more likely to catch selling. They reverse. You understand? So I'll give you an example, like an IQ. Here's a perfect example. IQ saw some activity on Friday again. And you could have got an IQ. You could have probably scalped it. But if you were looking for one of these candles out of the IQ, you got caught in a reversal to red. That's the point I'm trying to make. I like to focus on things, unless I'm really scalping, I like to focus on things that are dead. That's been my bread and butter, swing trading, day trading, because what I know, sweepers are going to create momentum. Okay? If there's no momentum in a name and there's aggressive sweeper activity, all of a sudden now there's momentum in that name. There may be shorts in that name that need to cover and get squeezed. You understand? When a name is already hot and has momentum, what edge are the sweepers providing to me on an intraday basis? The name already has bullish momentum, and there's, bullish sweeper activity coming in. You understand? So a stock is not going to, if a stock's up 3, very rarely is it going to go up another buck or 2 from there, is the point I'm trying to make. But if you got aggressive sweeper activity into a name that's down a bit or stuck in consolidation, sometimes you get the red to green moves that are pretty decent. But there are exceptions. I'll give you an example. I couldn't even buy it even for a scalp because it was so thin. This Fizz, okay, very rarely catches action, F-I-Z-Z. It was early morning, right out of the gate. The stock was green. Okay, I usually don't like to chase green, but again, it was right at the open. I just wanted to get in just for a scalp. It wasn't liquid. Even the stock was pretty thin at the time. But here's an example. I mean, look what this thing did. Intraday, it just continued. Where's the 1 minute here? Look at it. The action came in. Look at this, exploded and just can close at the highs. So there are exceptions, but more than not, I don't like to chase. You know what I mean? For anything outside of a scalp. Anything outside of the scalp. Gordon saying BILBI and HUA same as IQ. Yeah, and Gordon, that's my point. I think you're about the 25th person who has told me that over the last 2 days. Everybody's looking for it, Gordon. Trust me, I'm telling you from experience, everybody's going to want to find the next IQ. A lot of times there's just one IQ. That's it. And again, you may be able to make money. You may be able to flip it. You may be able to take advantage of the momentum there. But if you're holding for the next IQ, the odds are against you. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Me personally, I'm looking for the new something, not the next something. That's what I'm focused on here now off sweeper activity. What's the new sector at play, the new play? I don't want the next anything right now because, like I said, it's late. It's late. So that's where we're at sentiment-wise. Okay, again, the hot tech pockets, be careful in. The other stuff looks okay. Just be prepared. Again, a pull shouldn't shock you here, no matter what. Okay. Let's go to some of the names that caught action. So here are some of the names. I post this list at the end of the day. Top bets. Some of the action that caught my eye. Some of it's repeat activity. I don't like to put a lot of repeat activity out there. I like to focus on, the decent buy candidates, something we can look at to buy more than anything. But if there's not enough of it, I'll post some of the better looking action out there because you guys may be in the names and stuff like that. This HDP was probably the best activity on Friday. It's a tech software name. So again, that spillover we're talking about, right? Had a decent day on Friday here. You could see gapped up a little bit off a little move, little stretched. But again, decent activity there. And you can see has been a laggard, doesn't look as good as some of the others out there, put it that way. So here's the flow that came in. Again, this is a name that rarely catches flow. I remember a couple of times that it did catch flow and it has done well. But the spot I'm not crazy about. The spot, meaning I would like a pullback there if possible. So they bought some Julys. You can see there, July 20s and November 22 and a halves they were buying. All right. And here's an example, okay? So let's say this HDP, you got action there Friday. I would not, the money I came out of FDC or CPB or any of the recent winners, I am not taking a same size position in HDP here. Okay? I take a smaller position, and if it clicks, I'll make a little money. That's how I would look at it. Fizz, we talked about Fizz. Here's that order. First of all, they bought, I didn't put them on here, June's. That's what caught my eye. They were buying June calls that expire Friday in this Fizz, nevertheless. So, again, I tried to buy some stock. I couldn't even buy it. But July 115s was the other bet outside of the June call action. DHI, I was getting a ton of questions about DHI. You guys saw all the action in DHI. Anybody with eyeballs saw the action in DHI. They replaced June positions in open interest. There were a ton of June call positions in open interest. They've been selling chunks of them. They had a decent chunk left over going into Friday. I don't know. Again, I didn't rip out a calculator, do the math. So I don't know how much they put into July's and all that stuff in comparison to what they have. But that was June position replacement in DHI. Okay. Wasn't fresh buying. So for an example, I'm trying to think of other examples. MGM. Remember MGM? Same thing. Bullish, right? It's bullish. They could have just let them expire and wash their hands with it. They didn't do that. But it's not new buying. If you remember, MGM had similar activity. Remember all that activity that came into MGM up in the millions? So very similar to that. Very similar to that. So what I was telling a lot of members on Friday, if you like DHI, okay, you like the spot where you want to own a home builder and you were looking for action, maybe worth a shot. Maybe they rotate into these things. You know, they haven't been good at all. But I wouldn't play it off that action like being clean. That I wouldn't do. Okay, it's not Campbell Soup action. It's not that. It's not fresh buying like that. Yeah, MGM, I'm trying to think. There was another one recently that had it. I can't remember. That's similar type flow. Oop, hold on a second. I lost your questions. You see what I did here now? Hold on. Okay, here are some of the other, again, repeat buying. There wasn't a lot of initial activity on Friday. A lot of June replacement and rolling out. That's been a name with some decent action. I know a lot of you guys are interested in the name, own it or traded it. They had a secondary news, finally created a pullback there, and sweepers have been all over it again. This is a big, what's that called? 5G play or whatever. What the hell is it called? There's a lot of hype behind this thing. As you can see by the stock. As you can see by the stock. Now, a lot of people have been buying this thing. I don't know what the hell they're doing with it up here, but it's been such a score. Look at this thing. All right, so there was a little more sweeper activity there on Friday. EA, this too likely replaces June. If you guys remember, June was the month they were buying blood. They were buying June calls when they were buying blood in EA. Remember that? Back here? So similar to like Campbell Soup and that stuff, buying the blood. They were buying EA blood and huge June call spreads, June risk reversal, June sweepers. So they had a lot of June stuff to replace, and they were doing that on Friday. Look at this EA. I'm so aggravated I don't own any EA or ATVI off action. You know what I mean? Where as hot as these game stocks were with all that action. But yeah, so EA, they bought, they were buying July 150s and some other strike, again, replacing some of the June action. PPG, I think that's a chemical name, has seen some action down here. Saw action Thursday, I think Wednesday or Thursday, might have been both. A little more action Friday. So you can see here a little pop. I wouldn't chase that now. It's only $1.42, but I would let it breathe if you're interested. But maybe a rotation into some of these things. Again, like we were talking about in May, next week should be a decent indicator of what they may roll into. We'll see some clean action. Hopefully, they'll start buying some other stuff. Underbelly tech is still okay to play. I just wouldn't go too crazy with it, depending on the names anyway. So this PPG put some more action on Friday. But I keep screwing this up. Hold on a second. There we go. August 110 swept there. KKR, it looked like they were rolling out a position there. KKR, a lot of you guys know, huge buying in this KKR. A lot of it further out, though. Leaps, Jans, Decembers. They love this KKR. A couple of guys in the room own it. They got a nice entry on this thing. Looks good. She's slow, though. Really, really slow name. I wouldn't chase it here, no. DBX, here was some of the action on Friday. So there was a couple of them I just pulled off. June 22nd, 39 calls. Some opening activity there, sweeper. What do we got? Yeah, this was late day. There was a little action early on, too. I think it might have been in June. That expires Friday. But, DBX. Most people are pissed off that they sold it more than anything else. Excuse me. But here, a no touch, in my opinion. What else? Spot. Spot also had a nice little rally out of there. See the difference in spots? Again, no pun intended. Spot down here. Where was that? Right on this candle spot, right? Or this. I think it was this. That's where that sweeper came in, right here. Perfect spot. Perfect. That's the stuff I get excited about. Not this, the action into parabolic moves. All right, so that's the action. Not much. My opinion, HDP, probably a name to keep an eye on as we go into next week. Like I said, a little bit of a chase there going on, but looks interesting. And I also got these. I'll post this on my regular Twitter. This is some of the spread action that was out there. Nothing really crazy. EA September spread on the bottom there. I'll post that on Twitter. All right. What else did I want to talk about? And then I'll take some of your questions. Let me think 1 second. Oh yeah, and we don't even really need to go over some of the names. There's been winners across the board here. Whether you were buying blood, whether you were buying at a consolidation, high growth names, even Disney, for crying out loud, was a real nice winner. Look at this Disney ramp. Real nice winner. Oh, I got a name that's still around value territory you guys can look at. PAGS. Anybody know PAGS? Who's not a member? I know we've been talking about it, us members. Anybody familiar with PAGS or bought any PAGS? HDP reports earnings August 8th. Thank you, Gordon. Yeah, we'll take a look at NKTR. That had a nice bet at a decent spot last week. Anybody know this PAGS? Well, anyway, this PAGS caught some decent size action, a couple of bets. believe it or not, I think they started around here somewhere, up here. Then the stock dropped, I think, when Brazil was getting beat up, if I remember correctly. They bought into that blood. They bought again. And then it finally slapped me in the head mid last week off sweeper activity that I got to own at least something in this thing. So I bought some. I'm hoping to add in November's. So kind of like the approach I took with some of the others, over the last couple of weeks. I put on a starter position, and then, as it sits, maybe it comes in, that type of thing, I'll add to it, especially if they continue to hit it. If they continue to hit this thing, I'm definitely going to have a decent sized position when it's all said and done, if it's still here. All right. But this is how it usually happens. This thing catches an order. I'm like, all right, PAGS. What the hell is this? Latin America and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. There's other stuff that's better out there. Then they hit it again. Then they hit it again. Then they hit it again. And then it slaps me upside the head and saying, all right, this is not just a play for a move, or, you know what I mean? This is somebody out there who's building a serious position in this thing for some reason, right? So I want to put my money on that side time and time again. There's no question about it. The name can shovel dog crap for all I care. If they buy it like I'm explaining to you, even better. If I don't know the catalyst, I don't know what they do, I don't know why they're buying it. That's even better. I get concerned when the story and the catalyst may be there, and there's some decent flow. And I guess not concerned, but a little leery, because, if I'm seeing the catalyst, you're seeing the catalyst, my experience, the smart money rarely, gets crazy. There's exceptions. Like, for example, PayPal. Remember when they were buying PayPal? There was no catalyst in sight. Amazon was going to put them out of business at the time. That's what they were talking about, if you remember. Down here, remember? They were buying into that Amazon selling, and then we find out, they made a key acquisition. They stole it from Square. Investor Analyst Day that they were doing cartwheels out of. And we're probably going to find out at some point in the future who did all that buying down there. So that's what I like to see, stuff like that. FDC was a little different. FDC, when they were buying down here, we put two and two together. We figured out Cooperman that syndicate was probably involved. When he came out public that he had a big position in it. But then recently here, they were buying it, and we found out they had an analyst meeting. And, a couple of guys I know who know the name well were telling me that there was going to be a lot of excitement to come out of it. So, that was the few instances where we found out about a potential catalyst and it worked out. But FDC, the heavy duty lifting was down here, if you guys remember. In Jan's and July's, and the stock looked like garbage. Couldn't put a rally together for nothing. And look at it now, And there's a big move for this name. This is a slow stock. This is not some ripper. This thing is slow as molasses. So that's it. Yeah, so PAGs are probably the best, I would say, out of the bunch of last week. There was also some spec action. A couple guys played nice and easy, made a nice hit on DIN. Anybody know this one? DIN? Restaurant name. Caught a really decent looking sweep. Had a nice ramp. What else? Oh, a name that really didn't move too much yet. Just a little lift. Calm. CALM. Decent looking order there. That's up at the highs. They're not buying blood there. I'm just giving you some other names that they were buying. ZS. Post IPO, you can see she had a big move already, some buying there. You may want to keep an eye on it if there's some juice left in these things. Software, what a coincidence. These things are ridiculous. What's that other software name that a couple of you guys in the room owned that caught action and just went berserk? Soybeans, I know. Remember, MJ? I was like, soybeans? They're buying soybeans? What the hell's going on? You don't remember I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on? PVTL, that's the one, Eric. A couple guys had this PVTL in the room. What a move. They sold it a bit early, though. I know Zitch is pulling his hair out of his head. He sold it really early. Look at this thing. Wow. Software again. Yeah, this is every time I've been seeing action, right here, if you can see to the right of the screen, underneath the name is kind of a quick description of the sector. I see software or this business support services or IT services. That's been everything, almost everything with hot action. VRX, incredible action. I think they got an event next week, Rick. Just FYI, if you're in it, just to be careful there. There might be some profit taking, obviously. What a move. What action in this VRX. The size, sweepers hitting this thing. Unbelievable. And this is nothing new, guys. We've been talking about this. This has been going on for a while in this VRX. Kind of like the other one, that Teva. Look at this. They've been really hot. Really hot. I was trying to think of another name that looked, Box. You guys remember Box? So Box, if you remember, had really good looking sweeper activity out of this and then exploded. A lot of you guys owned it back then. See, this is what I mean. This is eventually what's going to happen to a lot of these names. This. At least this. So Box, again, not initial activity. They're not missiles, but there's some buying. So with as much heat as there is in the group, the software group, you might see a move on this thing. So it may be, again, it may be worth a small play to still participate. Looks good. Yeah, at least you're not buying, off a move like this. You're buying out of some consolidation. But just understand it's not initial activity. You can't weigh it the same. You just can't. They bought weakness nice on Friday. There was a nice little shakeout, kind of like they were doing in Roku. That's another name with some nice action. You remember Roku? I think this is the candle right here. First good looking Roku sweep right here, right into that selling. And the action has been pretty impressive in this Roku throughout this whole move. So if you're going to look at Roku here, I think you got to try, you got to look for a little pull and then look for some action in. There was a pull Friday. You know what I mean? You see some sweeper activity come in for a trade. I just wouldn't treat it the same as buying down here. Another one they were buying into death was OSTK. Decent lift out of here. There was a couple decent sweeps in this little sideways action here. Yeah, Ani Kron had some small unusual activity. A lot of people talking about this. Was some sort of weed play, I think. Some sort of weed play. The action's cheap. Ani, cheap, spec action. But if, you like the name, you could take a shot on it. Again, guys, playing off action and then playing the goods, that's where the money management comes into play. You know what I'm talking about, Ani, when there's missiles coming into consolidation or coming into blood, that's where You know, that's where your hits are going to come from. You know what I mean? That's where your hits are going to come from. The little spec action type stuff, the high momentum type stuff, yeah, that's where you want to play nice and easy. And, you know, maybe you get a little lucky. But if you don't, they're more prone to failure. That's what I'm trying to get at. You know what I mean? They're more prone to fail. You know, action coming into PayPal when it's already hot, in my opinion, is more prone to failure than when they're firing missiles into the teeth of the selling down here. May take a little bit longer to get its act together because of the selling, but eventually, when they do, it comes quick. You know, so that's the goods, though. You know, and it doesn't have to be into selling. It could be into just chop. It could be, if you guys remember, like FCX, back here. Remember? You know, it's not blood per se, but all of a sudden you had FCX missiles show up out of nowhere, and then boom. You know, those are always the best ones. Always. You know, they don't come out of, as opposed to like this. You know, they really come out. You don't want to be positioned the same way in something like this up here. You can still play it because there's juice out there, there's action, but they come out of consolidation, out of death. You know, Dropbox at a complete death. Spot was probably even better action than Dropbox at a complete death. You know, sideways, again, nothing, no huge selling. How much of a missile could you see on a $7 stock that doesn't see much action? Cron, yeah, that's the problem. See, the way I look at it, John, you make a good point. Some of the cheap names, I look at them as like rolling the dice lotto, John, type thing. You know what I mean? Once in a blue moon, you could see some crazy action come in, you know, but not like you mentioned, very rarely comes into something as thin as that. Yeah, AMD, exactly, heavily traded. That's what I'm trying to say. But you make a good point. That's why, you know, you take a shot in the little guys. You lose. It's a loser. They'll even out at the end. See, the way I look at it, if you manage your money properly, okay, what's going to happen is the shots, the roll of the dice, spec, momentum plays, they're going to even themselves out at the least. In other words, you'll make some money, you'll lose some money. At the end of the day, net, you're either going to be up a little, down a little, depending on luck. Your bread and butter has got to come from the quality. That's where the bread and butter of your P&L should come from if you're trading off the stuff we look at every day. And what I mean by the bread and butter, not just missiles per se, but missiles coming at the right spot. You know, and you guys know I'm a big proponent of it ad nauseum. The right spot to me is a big deal. I'll give you an example. Momo. Even though this thing is still catching action up here, and some of the best action we've seen in the name up here, I don't regard this as top shelf stuff. Why? You guys know the reason why. You know, it already saw activity coming out of consolidation. And look at this move. You know, look at this move. Now, the reason why I don't put it in that category, even though the flow is because when you see a move like this, again, it's late inning stuff across the board in the sectors. So what's the likelihood you see a big move here without some sort of pull or digestion before? So a quick trade, yeah, maybe you'll get that out of it. But if you're holding for the big enchilada, can it happen? Of course it can happen. But it's just more prone to failure. It happens. WWE, right? I mean, WWE caught initial activity right here. Okay? A couple of us day traded it several times. Some took it for a swing trade, had a nice quick profit, sold it, And the best activity was coming into this strength. And she's still going. Slowly, but she's still going. So there are exceptions. A lot has to do, I guess, too, with the timing of the market and stuff like that. But I think it's just the timing of the market more than anything else with buying things this hot. Usually it's because things have already moved emphatically. Marvel, yeah. Grub, by the way, Maria, talking about Grub, that's another one that has seen some decent action. Grub, really good looking name. Several times this thing over the past, I would say, year and change. You weren't typing Grub to me. Well, anyway, by accident, you brought up an interesting name, the Grub. But again, like most, have a nice move here. Maria's asking about Marvel. Marvel's pretty interesting. I would call it consolidation, but this is how Marvel trades, guys, a lot. She's really slow and frustrating. Really slow, this Marvel. So if you're going to make a play on it, just make sure you have enough time because the fades happen quick. You can see, look back, this Marvel has a tendency to catch activity. And, outside of this, you can see here, this move off earnings, a lot of mess, a lot of mess. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe there's a lot of hands involved, funds, buying, selling. Every time it makes a move, there's sellers, that type of thing. But, that was the case with AMD, Maria, and look at her now, So again, I could tell you from my experience, but obviously I could be wrong, you think I felt AMD was going to make a move like this? No way in hell. AMD has been great off action too for a trade. But I didn't think, rattle off a move like this? No way. I didn't think that. PRSP, does that trade options? I don't even know if that trades options, does it? I haven't seen anything there. PRSP. Doesn't trade options yet, Sean, but that's a name to keep an eye on. If they start, wait, PRSP? Oh yeah, it trades options. This is the spinoff. Yeah. That caught a little bit of caught a buyer, this PRSP. Yep, I remember it now. I would definitely keep an eye on it. Definitely. Yeah, it had a couple buyers, this thing. I would definitely keep an eye on it. Yeah, George, this webinar, pretty much what we're doing now, we do every week for members of the room and private Twitter. MJ, you dump everything that goes down for a day. What don't you dump that goes down? MJ, by the way, was complaining about IQ. If you think about that for a second now. She was complaining about IQ, that it was slow, it wasn't doing anything. Honestly, that was about 15 points ago. Can you imagine? Yeah, she dumped FDC. She dumped FDC because it wasn't doing anything. Oh, MJ, you cracked me up. And PSTG, look at this. But meanwhile, MJ, you're the talk of the town right now. You're the talk of the town. Not many. Listen, I know stories of people who have made some decent money over a short amount of time. Okay. But your story doesn't come around that much. $450 to $5 grand, $6 grand. That's ridiculous. Because $400, you can't buy a meal for $400 these days. $250. I'm sorry, $250. So those of you who aren't in the room, MJ, who is as big as a degenerate as you're going to find, no offense, okay, just recently took $250 to like $6 grand, $250. You can't go out to dinner with your husband for $250 tonight. Do you realize that? That's pretty impressive, MJ. No matter what. Listen, there's luck involved in that, obviously. That's not, you don't hear too many stories like that. That's psychotic. Mel's been in the room for a bit, half 130%. Mel, see, like 130%. When I hear those numbers, like you hear them on Twitter day in, day out, that's peanuts. You're up 130%. Now, right now, your focus should be on hanging on to a chunk of that. That's my opinion. Not the MJ strategy, take 130% and turn it into 1,300%. But listen, if you're trying to really blow up an account, blow up in a good way, you got to roll the dice like MJ did. Okay, obviously. All right. But if you have a different outlook, like you're trying to figure out a way to find consistency in this game, you want to stick around, this is something you really want to do and do well, your main objection now should be, if you're up a number like that, 130%, is to keep a chunk of that and allow things to set up again. Okay. So in other words, if you like a PAGS, you put a little money into that, or you like, any of the other stuff we were talking about, you put a little risk on, but even if they go south, you're still going to keep a chunk of that money. And now, if the market sets up again, think about all the activity that came out of this move. Think about the winners that came out of this move. Some of them were slower than others. Yeah, there's a lot of luck involved because you got to fall on the right ones per se. But there were some enormous winners that came out of this rally. And that's what you should be looking forward to when the market sets up again. There'll still be winners as this market hangs in there up here. Maybe it comes out of rotation, Mel. It could come out of rotation. It could come into different groups. Who knows? They go into banks. They go into energy names. They go into, I don't know, solar. They can go into anything. Biotech, even though there's been some decent biotech too. But that's what, when you see that type of number, that's amazing. That's an accomplishment. But the most important accomplishment is hanging on to it, seriously. And I'm happy to hear that's what you're focusing on here. That's music to my ears. Because again, not to sound corny, I'm no preacher. Okay, I'd be the first to admit to you guys, I'm give myself no credit as a trader whatsoever. In my eyes, I'm a professional gambler. I'm not any superstar trader. All right. But the difference between people who hang around in this game and the people who don't, a lot of people can make money when a market is like this. Not everybody hangs on to it. That's the problem. They want that 500%. They want that 1,000. They're never happy. It's almost like that, again, the blackjack table. You're up 1,000. Do you get up and walk away? No. What about if I turn that 1,000 into 2,000? Even if you do that, you want to turn that 2 into 4. It never ends. It never ends. The only difference is the blackjack table never sets up again for you. You know what I mean? There's no setup to begin with. The market sets up time and time again. The market will set up via rotation, via pullback, via selling, and that's where the bulk of your money is going to come from. The bulk of your money. What else? Anybody else? A couple interesting names that you guys have mentioned, even going forward, like that spinoff name. I would like it even better if it was an IPO. You know what I mean? Rather than a spinoff. But I would keep an eye on further action there. Wait, this was a spinoff? Oh, HPE. Yeah. So is this a hot thing though? Is this like a hot play or something? HPE is like what? HPE is, yeah, I know Hewlett Packard Enterprises, but what do they do that they spun them off? Zuo. I don't know if I heard that name. ZUO. Here's another one. Look, business support services. Incredible. What do they do? Like FTC? Another IPO. There's nothing better Bob, than the IPO names when they catch action. I think I told you guys, GoPro, when they first started trading options, oh my God, sweepers went nuts. It was the biggest post IPO winner I've ever seen in my life. It was a monster, GoPro. I mean, look at her now, but a monster. Baba, another one, monster, absolute monster. So the IPO names, and you can see this IPO list is growing and growing. That's another good sign. We gotta start keeping our eyes. You don't recognize a name, don't brush it off. MJ saying they started buying IQ when volatility was around 60. Now it's 100%. Yeah, well, this is craziness now. This is absurdity now. This is absurd. This is totally craziness. By the way, PAGS, from what I'm told, is basically the FDC PayPal of Brazil. Does that make sense? Are you any of you guys aware of that? And business services. See again here, Bob, every name that's been catching action. But supposedly this PAGS, if you guys were wondering what the hell it does, is a FDC of a square. It's like a square. Brazil's pretty stable, right? Payment processing, yeah. So, yeah, Brazil is a mess. But again, if they're buying PAGS, I'm buying PAGS. I couldn't even. No reason for me to become an economist all of a sudden. Yeah, Square has been enormous. Like, she's still going too. This Square has been very quiet, right? Like the Square, would catch action. There wasn't a lot of riffraff talk about Square for some reason. I don't know why. Where back here, there was a lot of noise on it. This Square, they bought every little dip in this thing, some decent sweeper activity out in July too, nonstop. There's been a lot of nice ones. Penn, that's the casino play, right? They've been, oh, that looks pretty decent. That looks pretty decent. Maybe we'll see some fresh action. There was action there, but there was heavy action, a lot of it rolling, just pushing positions out type of thing. Maybe these casino names will heat up. IGT had a little lift, but we didn't talk about that. That was looking bad for a while. Had a little lift there. We'll see what she does next week. There was some news. I don't know if that was the news. I mean, was that big news, what they did with MGM? I don't know if it could have been what they had up their sleeve. It's possible. I don't think so, in my opinion. But we'll see how the why it wasn't big news, MJ? I don't know. I saw the headline, but I didn't. Well, I mean, lame move. The stock was dead at 24 and change. You hit what? Almost 27. That's not too lame. Where do you want it to go in a couple days? 31? Little by little. Like I say, it happens quick. This Campbell soup was dead and buried. I got to dump some Campbell soup Monday, by the way. And then I'll leave some. I got Novembers. I got a ton of time. But I want to take some off the table. JD. Remember how bad JD looked? Oh, man. Did JD take riffraff for a ride? JD caught that day ton of activity. You had CNBC, the Nigerian ponytails pump it to death, remember? End up reversing, going to new lows, shook out every riffraff that tailed the pump, and then whoop. Same thing with Disney. They did the same thing with Disney. Same thing with Disney. AAXN, that's that animal, isn't it? Oh, no, I'm thinking of The old, oh yeah, that's the old taser. Look at this thing. Jesus Christ. By the way, Rick, you bring up a good point there that I forgot to put on the list. MO, I'm not a big Philip Morris fan to begin with, but should be on that top bets of Friday list. I don't know why I forgot to put it on there, but MO caught decent action Friday. And Rick is saying, I think they're hitting MO from the grave because of the 10th Amendment ruling on sports betting and expecting to give states power to decide on ganja legislation. Just my speculation. Interesting. Interesting. So yeah, there was decent sweeper activity. Yeah, nothing crazy, but decent on Friday in this MO. So yeah, I know a lot of people aren't big fans of it. Usually they buy MO when the market's a mess. You know, it's kind of that flight to safety type thing. That's the first thing I think of when I think of MO. But you know, you can see there are trades out of it. You can get trades out of it, especially if there's some news on the horizon. And it caught some action Friday, so you can keep an eye on it. Again, these game names, I'm pissed off. I don't own any of them. I'm really pissed off. Take-Two caught a risk reversal. I didn't fire off it out of this consolidation. ATVI, the entry we had on this ATVI, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. You wouldn't believe me. ATVI, the initial sweeper activity, literally marked the lows back here. Marked the lows. Look at her now. Right out of the depth of that correction. And I don't have a stitch to show for it. I made money with it, but I couldn't wait to get out of it. I couldn't wait to get out of it. It's story of my life, though. Story of my life. Ranchero knows exactly what I'm talking about. What else? Any other names? Any other names we got before we wrap things up here? So you got a couple names to watch. ADSK. ADSK. I don't remember. Was that? Let me. I get that confused with Adobe. ADSK had flow. ADSK catches some flow from time to time. Looks pretty decent. You know which caught? Oh, it was earnings flow. Red Hat caught some flow on Friday, but it catches earnings. They have earnings the end of the month. Some out of the money sweeper activity in Red Hat may run into numbers. Salesforce, what a beast, right? What a beast. No better name. You know, there's bigger winners out there. No better dip buy name or sweeper activity out there than CRM. Money. Money. You know, absolute money. Every time you get a dip, you see some action, it's a gift from the gods. A couple of you guys were talking about that Nectar had a bull. Well, it was a risk reversal. Well, they sold July puts and they bought calls, I think, a little further out. Had a little bit of a lift Thursday, Friday, and KTR. And there was some news, I think an analyst upgrade maybe, Friday after the bell. So a name you could keep an eye on here. AMKR, no, is that a semiconductor? I don't remember any crazy action there. There might have been some flow on it, but I've heard of the name. You got a lot of semis that have been beat up a little bit, you know, so maybe we'll see some interesting action rotate into them. Again, we have spots, you know, we have spots. I'll give you an example. You know, the financials pretty much have frustrated everybody. What I would look for there in the financials is, where is it? Oh, I didn't put an updated one here. So this was Thursday. So you're getting there, you know, you're getting there. You get a little, if you see some action into some selling, Friday, believe it or not, there was some selling. The flow sucks though. I'll be honest with you. The flow in the financials, even with the Friday reversal, there was some flow. It sucked. You know, listen, Bank of America, we know it's always going to catch flow. You want to see them go bananas. right? Bananas, you need to see them go in Bank of America. Just because Bank of America catches a sweep, that means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Bank of America catches sweeps in its sleep. You need to see them go crazy. The best of the flow, believe it or not, Wells Fargo. And even there, nothing to talk about. But the best of the flow in the financials has been Wells Fargo. Citi, some flow, JP Morgan, a little bit of flow. Actually, Morgan Stanley had some October flow. But nothing that impresses me, and I like where they're at. I definitely like where they're at. The only thing is that Wells Fargo is the only one that I say, all right, there's some buying there. Otherwise it just looks like flow to me. That's all. Just regular flow. And I think that's it, right? We pretty much covered a decent amount of stuff here. All right, so we go into next week. I don't want to hear anyone on this webinar, if we get a pullback, especially in the hot things, be like, oh my God, what happened? Why is the market pulling back? No reason for that. You should all be ready for that. If it doesn't happen, that's okay. You make a little bit of money by participating in a small way. That's fine. All right, but most important thing is you want to hang on, because the majority of you, okay, have made some decent money off this rally, and you want to hang on to a good chunk of it and allow them to set it up one more time. Let them set it up again. If this is not 2017, there should be several times they set this up over and over again every couple months. 2017 was an outlier, an outlier. Usually you get at least 3, 4, 5 times throughout the year they set it up. So that's what we're looking for. And again, it may come in rotation. Doesn't mean I'm not talking about a crash or a panic attack like we saw in February. The hot stuff may just pull and chop around and become tougher, and the money may pour. Remember what we were talking about, and we'll leave it on this. Remember we were talking about energy, okay? Remember how we were saying energy they've gone crazy, out of control. And even though they look like they'll never pull back, you can't play them in decent size here. You can't do it. Okay? And they're going to pull back. But the good thing is when they pull back, the money should come out of that sector and go somewhere. There's a chance it may go nowhere. Okay? But more than not, usually they go somewhere else. And look what happened. They flooded the text. They flooded a bunch of different things. So that's what we're looking for now. That's a perfect way to end this webinar. That's what we're looking at going forward here. We want the money to come out of some of the hot tech eventually, and then go into some new stuff, and that's where we're going to eat. All right. Every June since 1970, S&P has hit the May close. Closes May 270 every June. All right, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But like I said, you don't want to get too hung up on the overall markets. We've been talking about that a lot, all right, in this rally. The individual names, the flow in individual names will tell you a lot. It tells you where the hot money's going. It tells you where the rotation's going, okay? And you can see outperformance there, even if the overall market does nothing. The overall market could just sit there, and the rotation spots outperform. So, the flow tells a lot here. It's not like back in the correction where we had to pay a lot of attention to sentiment and flow was useless. It's different now. Flow is important, and we got to keep an eye on where the initial activity goes. All right, guys. As always, thanks for coming out on a Saturday. Happy Father's Day to all the dudes out there. Enjoy your Father's Day weekend. All right. Good luck next week. And I'll see you guys. Any questions, you guys know where to find me. You can go to wallstreetjesus.com. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, guys.